Hi, I'm Katrina Mardell. I've been in many meetings with parents and teachers who are worried about students because they want to see them becoming happy, confident learners in the maths classroom, but they may have missed some skills or missed some things early on. And because maths builds on itself, it begins to snowball. And then it doesn't become about the maths anymore, but also about how they see themselves as a learner. So, through my work as in my tuition business, as well as a maths leader in many schools, I have developed this course to support parents who want to support their child at home in the maths classroom and in learning maths. This is just a overview of the first part of the course. This is probably one of the most important parts before you start getting into the maths. Every single year, a teacher has a new class. Before they get into the learning, they will spend some time doing two things, and that is beginning to develop relationships and setting expectations. Now, I know as a parent, you already have that relationship with them, but sometimes that can be also a little bit problematic because your child is their most comfortable with you. So they are really comfortable to tell you when something is not sticking with them or they're feeling frustrated. It's sometimes harder to get over that frustration and back into the learning. So this will help guide you in how you're going to set up the expectations in your mini tuition classroom. So then when bumps in the road do happen, you have that expectation and those conversations to fall back on, because this is where the learning starts, in sharing with each other about how you, as well as your child, you're both going to be learners here. You don't know everything, and you are going to make mistakes and you're going to learn together, and you are going to agree to that. And if you go through the course, I'll show you how to do that. My role in schools has been a maths leader for many years now. As part of that, I mentor teachers, I lead whole school professional development. But I also own my own tuition business. So, with that knowledge, I not only understand what's happening in the classrooms, but then the needs of parents at home and how to support your child at home through tuition. And while this course is not going to be deep pedagogical information that I would target to teachers, it is very much what do you need to know as a parent to get through the basics that no matter where you are is going to support your child in the classroom. This course is designed for parents who want to help their child in maths but aren't always sure of the best way to do it. You've probably looked at online options, you've probably looked at apps, but you're not confident that this is helping them to develop really conceptual understanding. You want to see the learning happening in front of you. You want to experience and see and hear that they're developing that number sense. So if you're looking for something a little bit more than just clicking through games and online programs, and you're willing to sit down and be part of this learning process with them, then this course is for you. Okay. You want to know why they're being taught something a certain way and how to support them in this learning. I am going to explain that to you because I know that the way we learnt at school is very different to the way that students are learning it in primary schools at the moment. In my tuition business, when I have a new family come to see me, every time I have to do an assessment with that child. And so that's so I can see what they know and understand. So I'm able to put together some lessons to suit their understanding and where their needs are. Now, before they get to start this assessment, I give that child the opportunity to choose, do they want their parent to stay inside with them in the room as they complete this assessment, or would they prefer their parent to leave and wait outside? And every single time the child chooses for their parent to wait outside. Now, that's not a bad thing. It's just showing you how that child feels in that moment, because they don't want to let you down. They feel ashamed to make mistakes in front of you. They just want you to be proud of them. So I just want you to come with that understanding that for them to sit down in front of you and take risks and not know things is going to be difficult for them. When they're coming and they're sitting in front of me, it doesn't have that same emotion because I am a stranger and they know I'm here to help them. And we are going to build those relationships. Now, you already have that relationship with them. So now we just need to set that expectation around learning together and making mistakes. Now, mistakes help our brain grow. And in the resources provided, I have provided a link to an 8-minute video by Joe Bowler. And I want every tuition family that is doing this at home to take the time to watch this video together. There are some question prompts for you to discuss, and don't be afraid to pause the video and talk about what you're learning together, because I want you to think about what do you think a good maths learner is before watching the video, and then how has this video changed your perception? And what do you think about mistakes now? Okay, so you're going to talk about how together, as the parent and the child, you are going to come as two learners together. You are not the person that holds all the knowledge, and that is the same with my tuition business and my teachers. We don't always hold all the knowledge. We are going to work this out together. Okay. The last thing I want you to remember with growth mindset, it is not something that you talk about at the beginning of the term and never revisit again because you've ticked it off and it's done. A growth mindset is the culture of a classroom. So it's the way you feel with your child in each lesson. So this might be something that you need to come back to again and remind each other when things feel tough, to say that we are both learning in this experience and it's okay for both of us to make mistakes here, and to talk about how we feel when that happens, and to celebrate that when you're making mistakes together, that's wonderful because our brain is growing. After learning about a growth mindset, this is going to take us to the next step, which is the agreement. You'll be able to download a PDF which has an agreement that you are both agreeing to, as you are both coming to this as learners. You're going to talk about and sign that we both understand that mistakes are valued. We both understand that questions are encouraged and help us unlock learning. We are both learning something new, and we promise to bring our best selves to our lessons. Now, this agreement is not about discipline or blame. Okay, this is about a shared responsibility. When we have a classroom, there are even teachers who sometimes, when they're setting their expectations, the children in the classroom are the ones who set the expectations, and it comes up in their language where they say what they want to see in their own classroom. So feel free to add your own ideas, add your own language about what you and your child want to see in these lessons, because this is about setting a safe space for learning for both of you. Now, because you have that very strong relationship and connection already, this agreement is going to be your anchor, kind of like your North Star. If you are, if emotions are running high and your child is frustrated, take a break, give it some time, and then when you are both calm, you return together with this agreement. Okay, and it is not a blaming thing. It is a let's come together and talk about what is important to both of us in these lessons, because learning is a journey. It's not a destination. We never stop learning. So when there are bumps in the road, when we hit some potholes in our learning, that's okay. That happens to every family, that happens to every child. Not every day is a wonderful day. Sometimes it's going to be a bit harder than others. So take a break, and then we calmly come back to reestablish that supportive place where you both feel comfortable to learn. Tutoring works best when it is planned and not spontaneous. Children rarely feel like sitting down and learning after a big day at school, so this helps take the emotion out of it. Sit down together and work out what is going to work best for your family. Are you going to set out 1 hour a week on a specific day, or are you going to do 3 20-minute sessions spread over that week? Only you will know what is going to be best for your child. It's also important to will schedule it on a whiteboard so they can see it and you can refer back to it, whether you have a whiteboard in your child's room and they can plan their week out, or you have a family whiteboard somewhere where they can access it. It's also really important to schedule relax time and time where they're not learning. This is going to help them to stay motivated and know that learning is important, but so is for them planning their own time. And then if a tutoring session does get missed for any reason, it can then be moved into that free time then, which helps them to learn accountability and flexibility. So these is not only important for making sure that you're sitting down to do your tuition lessons, it's also building essential organizational skills. So if your child is going to go to high school later on, where they're going to be having many assignments due for different teachers, they have already got experience with you planning their week and planning the time when they're going to work and they're going to learn, and they're planning their relaxation and rest time as well. This is especially important as they get older, and a lot of these organizational skills are no longer in your hands but theirs, because they've already had guided practice with you. Each lesson sequence and course follows a gradual release of responsibility, which put simply is I do as the teacher, we do it together as you try it, and you do on your own as you've learnt those skills. Think of it like learning to drive. You weren't thrown in the car and told just to test things out and give it a go, not knowing where anything was. First, you had somebody demonstrate that for you and explain it. Explain the accelerator, the brake, and the important parts to you. Demonstrate how all the pieces work together before you were given a turn to have a go at using those skills and that knowledge. That all of these lessons are going to follow that same explicit modeling and explicit teaching first. So that is the I do as the parent, the teacher. Okay, so this is where you are going to demonstrate step by step what you're learning today. Now, in the courses, I am going to show you and model for you what you're learning and how you're learning it. So you're not going to be alone there. I'm going to help you with that step and explain why we do it that way as well. But this will be the first part in your lesson sequence. It's really important that you encourage your child at this step to have their whole body listening, and that they have your attention at this stage before they give it a go. And we're in what we call in the classroom as whole body listening. It's not just listening with the ears, it's making sure you have eye contact, that if your child is able to, that your body is still to demonstrate that focus. Now, when I say that, every single child is different. Not every child is able to have their body still, but you know your child best and you know what focus is for them. So you just want to make sure that they are focused and able to listen to your demonstration. After the explicit instruction, you're going to move into guided teaching, which is we do. So that's the part where you're going to be doing it together. There are certain parts you might need to model and demonstrate again, but then there are certain steps they might start to show a little bit of independence of as well. So you can repeat this stage and go over this for as long as your child needs. Everybody's learning path is different. We're not always going to go from part 1 to part 4 in a day. We might be moving to and from how much support and guidance they're needed. So you be directed from your child as you observe them in front of you. But this part is just about building confidence and just releasing your support through these steps as possible. Okay, and it might take a few goes. There's no rush. Okay, stage 3 is independent learning. So this is the you do stage, as in you, your child, where they now get to demonstrate their understanding on their own, and they're wanting to do as much as they can, if not hopefully the whole process or whatever you're learning, without any help. Now, please remember that learning is not a straight line. You might need to step back into that guided or even explicit modeling for certain things. One day your child might come and be able to demonstrate something without help or any guidance, and then the next day they might need a reminder or a follow-up or a demonstration again. So the goal is being as flexible as you can for what your child needs at the time. And the last stage for each lesson structure is the learning pit. Now, the learning pit is a safe space for challenge. They have already gained an understanding of that concept and skills, and they're going to use that knowledge and stretch their thinking and apply it in new ways. So this could be in a few different challenges. It might be something where they are asking the challenge is asking them to connect ideas. Maybe the lesson was around adding numbers, and now they might be looking at shapes and calculating the perimeter of a shape. So that is connecting ideas of addition, measurement, and 2D shapes. So they're thinking flexibly between different maths concepts. It could be an open-ended challenge where they're going to demonstrate their learning and their understanding with more than one answer, with more than one strategy and skill. So they're able to flexibly think about that subject in a variety of ways. So a teacher in a classroom might move through all of these 4 steps fluidly and flexibly. You might not always have your learning pit challenge at the end, but in this course, we're going to follow this gradual structure together because I want to make sure that we're building confidence in your child first before we're adding the challenge. We want your child to feel that when they're coming to these challenges in the end and they're in that learning pit, that they have the skills and understanding to be able to answer those questions in flexible ways and different ways and communicate their ideas. So that's going to help them to see themselves as confident learners. Here is just a list of some of the recommended resources for the lessons. I always recommend using whiteboards, small whiteboards. They're not too expensive these days, and some whiteboard markers to help them write down their thinking and their ideas. Even after I've worked with a child for many years, sitting down and then if I'm giving them a piece of paper and a pencil versus a whiteboard, I will still always get more thinking and get that child, even though I've got that relationship with them, they will take more risks on a whiteboard than they will on paper. So I always recommend working on a whiteboard. If it's something that you want to remember or track, just take a photo of it. Dice, games, cards, dominoes, wonderful things to be just playing maths games and building on those skills and computation with your child. I would just recommend, if you are looking at purchasing some dice, I would get a 0 to 6 numbered dice and a 0 to 9. And I get a lot of my resources from Temu, or you can get some from the $2 shop up the street. I do recommend getting some base 10 blocks, which are a little bit harder to source at your local shops. I buy my base 10 blocks from Temu, and they have magnet on the back. So you can, if you've got a fridge that you can put magnets on, so you can use that space. I have a large whiteboard, so I get the students to put them on the large whiteboard and use them that way. You don't have to get magnetized based, I call them MAB blocks, but they also called base 10 blocks. They are going to be important to use through many different lessons. So not just whole number. First, we're wanting to use them to be breaking those numbers up. And it's really going to help your child understand and develop that number sense and the value of that number. So if you were going to look at all the maths resources out there, this is the number one thing I would recommend. I would also recommend just a home printer. I always try to keep my printing as low as possible. However, I do find it valuable if I'm printing off some questions. I might cut out the square that question is on and put it next to the whiteboard, because I try to minimize screens in front of my children as they are learning. So I will have a piece of paper with that question next to the whiteboard. So then they're able to write on the question and they have it in front of them to analyze. Okay, I'm just going to get into what every course includes, so you know what is expected if you want to go ahead. Every course will begin with a pre-assessment, and will use the same assessment for pre and post assessment, so then you can see your child's learning from before you started the unit and after that lesson sequence. I will use the same ones with my students in my tuition business. So why you want to use a pre-assessment, why am I going to assess my child at the start? Because you need to know first, these lessons, are they valuable to your child? Is this going to be what your child needs? We don't want to be giving them lessons that are too hard or too high. We want to make sure that the lessons provided are exactly what your child needs. There's also going to be some information around learning intention and success criteria. Now, that is the language that a lot of classrooms are using at the moment. So you can talk to your child about if they have heard that in their classroom. And what that basically means is you want to make sure that your child understands what is that lesson about, why are we here, and how does your child know that they are being successful. I actually tell my class every year that I could get the best teacher in the entire world, and fly them to teach that class for a day, and they could still walk out of that classroom learning nothing. And they always look at me confused. I'm like, but why would I learn nothing when you've just brought me the best teacher in the world? And I say, because the learning has to start with them. They are the first people who are in charge of that learning. If they come into that lesson and they don't want to learn, they don't want to try or take risks, then they're not going to learn. They have to know that that learning starts with them. And that's when I talk about the learning intention being, this is what our goal is today. This is what you are learning in this lesson. So I want you at the end of the lesson to say to me confidently, this learning intention, whatever it is, I have learnt that today. And how I know that I have learnt this learning intention is because of this success criteria. So the success criteria is the how. The I know I've been successful because I can do these points. The success criteria is usually written in a couple of dot points. Okay, I can write numbers in expanded notation, or I can do this. And a lot of the time they're written with an I can kind of statement at the start. So it's easy language for your child to say, oh, I can do this, and I can do this one, and I can do this one. So since I'm able to do all of these things, I can walk out of this lesson and know I have learnt this today. I have been successful in learning what we were meant to today. I've also already spoken to you about the lesson sequence, so you will get all the resources for the modeled, guided, independent, and learning PIT lesson structure. You'll get everything that you need there. For the modeled lessons, I will demonstrate for you, so you are feeling confident to demonstrate for your child. You're welcome to watch the video and that demonstration with your child, or watch it yourself and then go and demonstrate yourself to your child, however you think your child is going to learn better. I'll also have questions for you to work through together through that guided process, as well as that independent process as well. And there will be the answers for you to check in by, just to check that you're on the right track, and some examples of answers in the learning pit as well, which is that where we're giving our children that challenge to really start thinking flexibly through that learning content. And that is the extension and challenge activities that might be open-ended, real life challenges, and we're connecting those ideas together. So this course has been designed for any parent who wants to sit down with their child and support them with their learning in maths. You don't need a teaching background. You don't need fancy equipment. You just need the time, the patience, and the commitment to be there to support your child. And I'm going to help you along the way. If you are a parent watching this from outside Australia and you are wondering if you could use these courses with your child, well, the answer is yes. All of the lessons have been mapped with the Australian and New South Wales mathematics curriculum. However, number is a universal language. So every country uses the base 10 system, and what these courses are, where I start with every tuition lessons, is we start with the basics first. We're looking at number, we're looking at building our number sense, pulling numbers apart, adding and subtracting numbers, and looking at our multiplicative strategies, which is multiplying and dividing. So for these areas and these courses, yes, these can be transferable to different countries. However, if you were looking at a measurement course, that is when I wouldn't recommend that for everyone, because in Australia we use the metric system and not every country uses that system. But for any number course, which is the majority of our courses, because that is the basics that is going to filter through every classroom and every content area, that can be done no matter where you are. I just wanted to say thank you for your time today. I know that your time is valuable, and I know that you are passionate to help and support your child. And thank you for giving me the time to help you do that.